Hi, this is Kendall Turner, student at California Baptist University, and this is my mock defense of my dissertation perspective for 780 Comprehensive Experience. The title of this study is A Comparative Case Study of Charter School Fiscal Oversight Frameworks of Movement Towards Increased Financial Accountability. My interest in this topic has evolved throughout the years. As a little girl growing up in the city of New Orleans, which was deemed to have one of the worst public school systems in the country, I was afforded the opportunity to go to some of the best schools, public schools in the city, mainly because of who my parents knew. As I moved on in my career, charter schools became something of particular interest to me because this was an opportunity for parents to choose where their children went to school. New Orleans is now the first all-charter school district in the country. As I moved into the charter school industry because of that, I became the top financial professional in a lot of the charter schools, a couple charter schools across the country. Had been afforded the opportunity as an independent auditor, as a top financial professional, as a board member to see and assess financial performance through different vantage points. As a chief financial officer of various charter schools, I have seen those who have performed well as those schools who fiscally were not performing to meet the goals and objectives of the organization. In accordance with that, I also got to see how authorizers assessed that and noticed that there were many gaps in determining whether or not an organization was going to be financially successful and meet organizational or programmatic goals for each of the schools. My interest in the topic evolved. Especially with New Orleans being an all-charter school district, having worked in Los Angeles where there was so much or so many high-profile fiscal malfeasance cases of charter school officials, my interest began to perk in this particular topic. So what makes me qualified to address the topic? Just a little bit about my background. I've been in the charter school industry as a top financial official for the last 11 years. I also have a master's degree in governmental accounting. I am a certified public accountant in the states of Louisiana and California. Prior to going in to charter schools as their top financial professional, I have been an independent auditor of charter schools and sat as a board member of two charter schools, one as a startup charter school, the other as an existing charter school with a reputable background. I've again served as the Chief Financial Officer of charter schools in the states of Louisiana, California, Ohio, and Florida. Some of my specified training has also been in internal controls based on the Committee of Sponsoring Organizations Framework of Internal Controls, which talks about monitoring organizations, talks about how to set up frameworks that would allow for internal controls for specific transactions and to reduce risk. I'm also a member of the AICPA's Governmental Performance and Accountability Committee. In 1955, Milton Friedman began a discussion regarding the role of government in education. Friedman argued that parents should be given the discretion to choose schools for their children and to pay for that education by providing them with the direct financial resources to do so. This not only permitted parents to choose, but it allowed government funding to follow children. Friedman's work for many is believed to be the birth of decentralized government-funded public education and the birth of school choice. Public-funded school options available to parents include voucher programs, magnet schools, and the focus of this research, charter schools. The U.S. Department of Education defines charter school as a public school that operates as a school of choice. According to the 1819 year by the Department of Education, there were 7,486 functioning charter schools. Charter schools can be operated by both for-profit organizations as well as nonprofit organizations. The first charter school in 1992 was in St. Paul, Minnesota, uh, called City Academy. Currently, there are laws in 45 states and the District of Columbia for charter schools to operate within their jurisdiction. Charter schools have afforded parents the ability to choose. One of the ways that it's done so is by reducing bureaucracy. One of the other ways that it's done so is it has allowed oversight and authorizers to create relationships that provide not only services to students, but provide a relationship where the oversight is crucial to the renewal of those schools. Because of the decentralization of public education, the need for solid oversight programs of charter schools has increased. Oversight agencies monitor academics, operations, and fiscal performance. Despite current monitoring efforts and accountability frameworks, charter schools continue to receive non-renewals due to financial concerns. Reports of fiscal malfeasance, misappropriation, and financial statement misrepresentation continue to persist. This study will explore the usefulness of current oversight programs using a decentralized school system to measure financial performance. The purpose of this study is to assess current fiscal accountability frameworks, to enhance authorizer oversight, promote programmatic success, and standardize policy implementation by creating evidence-based measurements consistent with the industry norms. Many studies have identified that there are an issue with fiscal oversight of charter schools, yet the studies have provided no insight into the areas that would reduce financial risk to the public. To take a second to go through some of the literature that I found critical to this study. Before I get into the theoretical framework that I'm going to use and those pieces of literature that were going to be provided that are going to be helpful in understanding that, I'm going to go through a couple of the key individuals who are doing research on this topic. A fiscal crisis and management assistance team known as FICMAT in the state of California has provided a control analysis and an evaluation tool for schools in the state of California that many use. Grand Canyon Institute also outlined several concerns regarding financial data and was able to create a few recommendations as well. The National Charter School Resource Center also put out a guide for fiscal oversight, as well as the Cowan Institute of New Orleans. These players are pretty crucial, especially to the charter schools that I will review in this case study, as you'll see as I move forward. Um, there's also a lot of literature regarding the impact of locations on charter schools and how that factored into charter school accountability and the need for oversight from Temple University by a researcher that was pretty crucial as well into the foundation of understanding the need for a fiscal accountability tool. However, as I go through the literature, it's pretty evident that there are some gaps in the literature. In the examination of the literature, it's noted that the literature focuses on the nature of the expenses of the charter school. For the purposes of this study, we will not be discussing that issue. For example, the literature focuses on the performance based on per pupil amount spent on instructional activities. It also focuses on the distribution of per pupil funding to charter schools in comparison to local districts. This study will not focus its attention on the merits of the expenses, but seeks to provide an accountability framework that addresses the risk and performance based on industry norms, in addition to the compliance with statutory requirements regarding financial obligations. One reason to study fiscal accountability um, will examine a relationship between the actor and the forum. It will use Baldwin's 7 elements of accountability as a social relation. A relationship qualifies as a case of accountability when there is a relationship between an actor and a forum in which the actor is obligated to explain and justify this conduct. The forum can impose questions, pass judgment, and the actor may face consequences. One of the other reasons for studying the fiscal accountability framework is it provides an evidence based framework which will enhance the relationship between the actor and the forum. The hope is that the enhanced relationship will render greater program success by standardizing the fiscal goals, objectives, and performance of charter schools. This standardized framework will reduce the risks to the public through clear policy implementation. Now I'm going to take a moment to go through some of the key definitions and the theoretical frameworks that I will be using for this study, as well as the researchers and research that was conducted as the basis for the study going forward. This study will focus on the theoretical framework of Milton Baldwin's Analyzing and Assessing Accountability, a conceptual framework from 2007. Baldwin stated the first question of accountability is asked from the forum. This perspective, he says, looks at a classification based on a type of forum to which the actor is required to render. For the purposes of this study, I will use his definition of administrative accountability. These administrative forums exercise regular financial and administrative scrutiny, often on the basis of specific statutes and prescribed norms. For the purpose of this study, the authorizer is the forum. Baldwin then explores the actor in his second question, and he states that the actor is identified as the person or organization that is accountable. He states that this is far more complicated of a question when it comes to the public. This study will examine corporate accountability, which Baldwin defines as a corporation, especially in Western counties. For the purposes of this study, the actors are the charter schools. And in the third question, Baldwin explores the nature of the activity that the actor is accountable to the forum for rendering. Baldwin states that this can yield classifications on the basis of, for example, financial, procedural, or programmatic accountability. This study will examine the conduct of financial accountability. In the accountability relationships, the actor is obligated to explain and provide justification for this action. For the purposes of this study, the financial responsibilities will be examined in which the charter school, who is the actor, is accountable to the authorizer, who is the forum, for financial accountability, the nature of the conduct. This study will also visit concepts as 5 areas of assessing accountability, including the clear responsibilities and mandates, transparency, political oversight, citizen control, and additional checks and sanctions as it begins to form the actual new framework based on the research. This is work done by Mies and Driesen, who further examined Baldwin's accountability and conceptual framework for assessing accountability. Now, as we move on to how the research actually will be conducted. For the comparative case study, 3 districts have been chosen. Los Angeles Unified School District, who has authorized 229 charter schools and currently serves approximately 156,000 students, which accounts for 23% of its student population. Los Angeles has the most students attending a charter school by count than any other district in the country. The other school would be New Orleans Public Schools. It is uniquely the only all charter school district in the country. New Orleans Public Schools has authorized 80 charter schools, which currently serves 49,000 students and is 98% of their student population. Denver Public Schools currently has 58 authorized charter schools serving 20,000 students, accounting for 22% of its student population. The study will seek to address three research questions. In what ways, if any, do the current fiscal accountability frameworks assess financial performance consistent with industry best practices? Standardize measurements to reduce financial risk and provide the appropriate level of financial oversight. Question number two, in which ways, if any, do current fiscal accountability frameworks ensure charter schools adhere to statutory compliance requirements and achieve objectives and goals through finance? And the third question, what improvements can be made or incorporated into the existing frameworks to improve charter school fiscal accountability? These research questions will be addressed through a triangulation of data and use three methods of data collection. First will be a document analysis of the three frameworks from each of the districts that have been chosen for the comparative case study. A sample of the completed oversight reports will be reviewed just to get an understanding of how the completed report looks. Second, there will be interviews of those oversight personnel. The interviews will be conducted specifically of those individuals who are responsible for the fiscal oversight at the charter schools authoriser's office. They will be conducted of one individual, one person from each district. Next will be a questionnaire provided to financial professionals, top financial professionals at each of the charter schools. Again, with 229 schools in Los Angeles, 80 in New Orleans, and 58 in Denver Public Schools, those questionnaires will be sent out to the top financial professionals. One of the things that I recognize is that because some charter schools are managed by charter operating groups, that there may be less top financial professionals than there are actual charter schools. I do anticipate some possible gaps in the methodology. This study does not consider organizations that have contracted out their top financial responsibilities and roles to outside providers. It also does not look at schools within its jurisdiction of Los Angeles, New Orleans, or Denver that are not authorized by the authorizers in the case study. For example, California Department of Education or Los Angeles County of Education may have authorized schools within the Los Angeles area. It also does not consider that there may be multiple authorizers within a jurisdiction, and that financial performance of a charter school may be conducted by an organization who has multiple schools underneath its jurisdiction that also have multiple authorizers. For example, a charter school management organization can have several schools, some of them being authorized by Los Angeles Unified School District, some by Los Angeles County of Education, others by California Department of Education. Previous studies have focused mostly on a quantitative basis. This will be done in a qualitative manner. So there may be gaps that others identify within the methodology. What is anticipated at the end of this study is that the results of all the data collection will be compiled in the creation of a new evidence-based fiscal accountability framework that can be used to measure financial performance and reduce risk to the public for financial concerns. Listed are a couple references that were cited throughout this presentation. I hope that you have enjoyed this presentation today. Again, my name is Kendall Turner, and I look forward to conducting this study and you all being able to see the results of this study.